Hello students, as I told you in the last presentation that we will be discussing on poetic devices used in the poem The Spider and the Fly. From this discussion, you will understand poetic device or figure of speech or literary device. There are more than 30 such devices in English, but in this presentation I will be discussing only which are used in the poem The Spider and the Fly. First of all, what does device mean? Device means an instrument or a gadget, and literary means written or artistic. Now the next thing related to literary device is figure of speech. You have learned parts of speech, right? So what is the difference between parts of speech and figure of speech? A group of letters which has a meaning is a word, and when the words are used in a sentence are called parts of speech. As you know, there are 8 parts of speech in the English language: noun, pronoun, verb, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. And figure of speech. What does figure mean here? Figure means form or pattern. So, a figure of speech is a form or expression, either written or spoken, that has other meaning than its normal definition. So parts of speech are the nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts mean the basic practical details of a language. You can talk about the functions of the parts of speech without any regard to the meanings of the words themselves. Figure of speech are creative uses of language in order to convey certain moods or meanings. So in a word, parts of speech is the different types of words in a sentence, and figure of speech is how you speak. Now, what is literary device? The definition of literary device is a technique or a special use of language a writer uses to produce a special effect in their writing. The term rhetorical device has almost exactly the same meaning, but it's a little broader. Whereas literary devices occur in literature, rhetorical devices can occur in any kind of speech or writing. So all literary devices are rhetorical devices, but not all the rhetorical devices are literary devices. The specific devices used are almost all the same though. Poetic device. Poetic devices are a form of literary device used in poetry. They are tools or instruments that a poet uses to create rhythm, enhance a poem's meaning, or intensify a mood or feeling. Except some technical differences, these figure of speech or rhetorical figure or poetic device or literary device all indicate a figurative language in the form of a single word or phrase where the purpose is to make the expression more beautiful, more effective, more interesting, or more amusing. Now I am going to discuss the figure of speech one by one. So let's get started with the most common one, simile. What to be noticed here, the spelling may be confusing to smile, at the same time easier to remember also. Just add one I after the S of smile, and the pronunciation is simile. A simile is a figure of speech that uses comparison between two unlike things. It is done using words like as, like, or so. Now, these two things must have one thing in common. Let's understand simile with some examples. Our soldiers are as brave as a lion. Here, we are comparing two different things, soldier and the lion, using the word as. And what is the thing that is common in both of them? It is the bravery. They both are known for their bravery. So here, as brave as a lion is a simile. Let's have some more examples. She is like an angel. Here, a girl is compared with an angel using the word like. And the common thing between them is the beauty of both of them. So, here, like an angel is a simile. Let's look into one more example to make the things clearer. Love is patient and so is my mother. Here, love is compared with my mother using the word so, and the common thing between them is patience. So, here, so is my mother is simile. So, these are the examples of simile. Now, let's look into the next type of figure of speech, metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that also uses comparison between two unlike things. And like simile, here also these two things must have one thing in common. Now you might be thinking in simile also we said the same thing, but there is a difference between simile and metaphor. While in simile we use words as, like, or so, while comparing two things, but in metaphor we do not use that. Let's look into the previous example of simile and try to convert it in metaphor. Our soldiers are as brave as a lion. Now removing as brave as, it becomes our soldiers are lion. In this statement also, our soldier is compared with the lion, and the common thing between them is bravery of both of them. But we haven't used the word as. Thus, we can say in the statement, our soldiers are as brave as lion, we used a simile. But when we say our soldiers are lion, we use a metaphor. Let's look into some more examples of metaphor. The camel is the sheep of desert. Here, the comparison is between camel and sheep is made by saying that they both are equal without using any word of comparison. So, this is a metaphor. Next example, life is a dream. Here, the comparison between life and dream is made by saying that they both are equal without using any word of comparison. So, these are the examples of metaphor. Now, let's see what type of figure of speech has been used in the poem and where and how they have been used. First of all, simile. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead. Here, the fly's eyes have been compared to a diamond and the spider's eyes to a lead. Next, anaphora. It is a figure of speech in which there is a deliberate repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of a sequence of sentences, paragraphs, and lines. For instance, how handsome are your gauzy wings? How brilliant are your eyes? So here the word how has been used at the beginning of both the lines. So this is anaphora. Next, repetition. It is a word, phrase, sentence, or a poetical line repeated to emphasize its significance in the text. For instance, "Oh no, no," said the little fly, "for I have often heard it said, the never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed." So the use of the phrase "oh no, no" and "never, never" emphasizes on the fly's firm dedication to not enter the spider's web. Next, alliteration. The close repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the beginning of words, is called alliteration. For instance, fiercely held her fast, dismal den. So, fiercely fast and dismal den, this is the repetition of consonant sound. So, this is the example of alliteration. Next, assonance. Assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sound. So, assonance is the just opposite to alliteration. In alliteration, there is a repetition of consonant sound, and in assonance, the repetition of vowel sound. So, the example from the poem is, "'Tis the prettiest little parlor," where I sound is repeated. "'Tis prettiest little." So, continuous repetition of I sound. Now, metaphor. We have already discussed metaphor. Now, let's see where metaphor has been used in the poem. With the pearl and silver wing. So, the wing of the fly is compared with the pearl and silver. It was so transparent that the spider told that It is looking like pearl and silver. Your wings are like pearl and silver. But why it is not simile? Because no word of comparison such as, like, or so has been used here to compare the wing with the pearl and silver. So this is the metaphor. Now the last type of figure of speech of today's discussion, that is onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia is defined as the word which imitates the natural sound of a thing. That is, it is a word which is the sound of that thing. Let's understand it with some example. The buzzing bee flew away. What is the sound of a bee? It is buzz. As in this sentence we are using the sound of buzzing, it is onomatopoeia. Let's look into another example. The large dog said, "Bow wow." What sound does the dog make? It is bow wow, right? As in this statement we are using the sound of dog, it is onomatopoeia. Let's look into the other example. The snake slithered and hissed. What is the sound of snake? It is hiss. And in this statement we are using the sound of snake. So this is onomatopoeia. So where the onomatopoeia has been used in the poem? With buzzing wings she hung aloft. Now let's talk about symbol and symbolism. Symbol is an object, event, animal or person to which we have attached meaning and significance. Symbolism in poetry is using an object or action that suggests something beyond its literal meaning. Symbolism means to imbue objects with a certain meaning that is different from their original meaning or function. It is a representative of other aspects, concepts, or traits than those visible in literal translation. Other literary devices such as metaphor, allegory, and allusion aid in the development of symbolism. So in the poem, the spider is the symbolic to the cunning predators that keep on lurking in every nook and corner of our society, and the fly is the symbolic to the innocent children who may fall the victim of the cunning predators of the society. So that's all about the figure of speech used in the poem The Spider and the Fly. Thank you.